Welcome to another installment of my Mr. Pandaria guides. With challenge modes and Mogashan vaults going live this week, many people are trying to get prepared with appropriate gear on time. In this video, I'll share my gearing strategy, which I've been doing so far on my main and my two alts. I want to be clear to say that this is not necessarily an optimal strategy and it will not be suited for everyone. But if it did help you on your way, please let me know in the comments. So currently, I'm sitting at 467 item level, having completed most of my pre-rating gearing, but how have I gotten here and what are my plans going forward? The gear has been and will be gotten from 5 different sources. First, we have the most obvious one, being heroic dungeon gear. It constitutes the majority of gear and is done early on to supply you with Valor and Justice points to buy more gear. This leads us to the second source, being gear purchased from Valor points. In itself, we're currently at the 1.6k Valor cap, which is going to be raised to 3.2k on next reset. This means that you can only get a single item right now, but it will be able to get another one on the next reset. Next, we have purchasable items. While this might not be accessible to everyone, I would strongly recommend to at least aim to farm the gold needed for the Dark Moon trinkets, since they're going to be a fantastic addition going through the entire tier. On the same note, we have profession-based gear, which can be crafted, and I've gotten blacksmithing and engineering up and crafted the blacksmithing chest and engineering head. While the blacksmithing chest can be traded, the engineering head is going to be binds on pickup, and it will be a strong addition to your gearing journey. Finally, the new arena season comes out on next reset, so I'm going to be getting as many pieces of Conquest gear as possible. My general strategy for gearing, since I'm going to be playing 3 characters on launch, is to get a solid baseline as soon as possible. I'll be running heroic raids as soon as I can, so I'm simply getting the gear required to go into the heroic raids to clear the content as of right now. Once the celestial dungeons come out, I'll fill my remaining slots with the 476 celestial dungeon gear and just repeat the heroic raids for gear in preparation for Terrace of Endless Springs and Heart of Fear. Since all gear is normalized to 463 item level for challenge modes, I'm not too worried about the item level of the gear that I'm gonna rely on early on. But instead, I'm looking for powerful socketed gear and on-use effects as well as secondary stats, since these will give the most value in challenge mode specifically. If we were to go through each category one by one, I'm gonna explain my thought process on gearing through each source of gear. Starting off with the heroic dungeon gear, my gearing strategy started off with just going for item level upgrades within my specific armor type to get it off the ground. Your primary concern when starting to gear is going to be to increase your main stat, being strength, intellect, or agility, since it gives the most value out of any stat available. As a tank, that meant that I was initially gearing for both DPS and tank secondary stats, since the strength and stamina was more beneficial as a starting point than min-maxing secondaries. The long-term plan is to get heroic dungeon gear, which will be beneficial for when I drop into raids, so as a prot pally, my secondary stat, which is best, is going to be haste, and therefore I'm specifically looking for pieces with haste on them while achieving my baseline gear from heroics. Apart from this, one of the most significant additions from heroic dungeon runs is going to be the trinkets which you can get. You should look out for these as soon as you get started, since they will most likely be with you for at least 2 weeks, while the secondary stats on gear pieces are of less importance. Once the baseline is achieved, you should be Valor capped, and you should have a few pieces which contribute to your pre-raid BiS, which allows us to continue our gearing journey. Now that you have the Valor that you need, what should you do with it? I would recommend that you do your daily rep grinds and ensure that you can buy 2 Valor pieces off the second weekly cap. I chose the Claxy Neck and August Celestial gloves simply because they give good secondary stats, being haste for my specific spec. Since my gearing strategy mostly revolves around getting my heroic gear from raids, then filling with celestial gears, I'm not too concerned about the future Valor caps and revered Valor rewards. However, for most players, I would recommend to start looking into the Valor pieces which you can get during week 3 and 4 resets at revered reputation with your respective factions, and then grinding the appropriate dailies for the reputation. If you're unsure and you have the time over, you can simply do all the dailies, as it's going to benefit you in the long run, both from gear, reputation, and gold earned, but it's not a necessity by any means. Apart from the Valor gear, you can also get a ton of justice points from doing heroic dungeons. I would suggest that you convert all of these points into honor and buy the Season 12 PvP gear for honor. Why, you might ask? The answer is twofold. First of all, the gear is 458 item level, so it posts a decent upgrade from questing gear. Since the launch of MoP, PvP gear now has 3 secondary stats, with one of them being PvP power. Compared to Cataclysm, there's no longer a loss of a secondary stat from using PvP gear, so it's really a viable alternative in terms of gear for PvE content as well. Secondly, when the ranked PvP season comes out on next launch, you'll be able to earn Conquest points and buy Malevolent Gladiator gear at 483 item level. Having the PvP gear from Honor is drastically going to improve your odds of winning PvP games and help with grinding the Conquest needed to get the Conquest gear. Myself, I'm planning on getting as many pieces as possible of Conquest gear, since it's a 20 item level higher than the dungeon gear from Heroics and it provides significant more stats. Though the cap is currently unknown, I would assume that it's going to be around 3500, so you should be able to get 2 pieces of Conquest gear on next reset, and it's highly recommended for gearing. Next, we have the purchasable items, both profession based and from the auction house. I would strongly recommend everyone to get engineering to 600, since it's simply a great utility kit, and it gives you the access to buy 476 item level heads with cogwheel sockets. It's a fantastic pre-raid item, and it provides significant value at a decent price. Apart from that, I would recommend that you farm gold so you can get your Relics of the Celestials, or also known as Darkmoon cards. These are going to be your pre-raid BiS for all classes, and is simply just too powerful to pass up on. As I like to remind myself when spending way too much gold on the auction house, gold is made to be spent. The value of gold depreciates over time if you simply hold on to it and do not use it. A lot of people seem to be afraid to spend gold in game, which I think should be the other way around. You should find a comfortable range of gold so you can buy consumables and other necessities, and then you should spend all the excess gold on items that's going to benefit you and make the game fun for you. Apart from the engineering headpiece and the Darkmoon trinket, I would say that everything else is optional. I've crafted some BOEs through professions and bought some world drops, but that's entirely dependent on your gold levels if you can afford it and if you value it enough. If you do all these steps, you're gonna end up on the 465 range of an item level with some really good gear. This gear is more than enough to get you through the entire heroic raid, as well as hitting some golds in challenge modes. As we get Celestials in 2 weeks, you'll be able to raise your average item level up to approximately 475 if you fill your slots when it's released. So it's going to be a nice catch-up mechanic for people who are not intending to push high-level content within the first 2 weeks. And that's going to wrap up my gearing progression guide. If you have any other ideas for gearing or suggestions for future content, please let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.